It's a huge disappointment that Endgame Gear have released a note this week letting us know they've had to once again delay the XM1 wireless, now known as the XM2W. Good news is we will not have to wait that long to get a wireless version of this shape, with the XM2WE coming in with a cutting edge 3370 sensor at under $100. What? It's here already? Amazing! What? Wait a minute, this is from LAMZU. Okay, cool, it's got the shape, but it's just a 63 gram 3370 clone, right? Right? So 55 grams, 33.95 sensor and $100. Well then, that is unfortunate. LAMZU have surprised us all with their first mouse, the Atlantis, which, to our collective disbelief and against all odds, is actually a complete banger. Now, watching unboxing is usually about as much fun as the QVC shopping channel. Zoom has now lost and unsub with the old man D-Cup reference, but in this case, it's so decent I wanted to break down the experience with you. First up, the box is a kind of posh clamshell guy with a little Chinese proverb which plays Atlantis bingo, using the word an impressive 5 times in 5 lines. Opening up our first little left-hand glory hole flap, we see a quick start guide and 2 sets of PTFE skates, both the standard layout and a little set of dots. There's also a set of BTL looking grip tapes which are a rich chicken korma orange hue, very attractive indeed. Folding back our right flap, we are greeted by a soft velveteen sack containing a small metal adapter and a USB-C paracord. Last up, star of the show, it is the wireless dongle and the Atlantis itself. The mouse is available in a whole range of seemingly every neon vomit colourway possible, with mine being a sort of uwu diva pink and blue, which speaks to the femboy deep inside of me.
You need Jesus!
You know what I meant. Lastly, I was also given a separate CD slipcase containing 2 alternate glass skates for the masochists among you who are still stubbornly defending glass skate supremacy. You are wrong, by the way. Now that we've rifled through the goodies that you get bundled in, let's dig into the mouse itself, starting with the shape. Now, I think you'd have to have the critical sight of Andrea Bocelli to look at this femme little mouse and not point to our resident claw grip Chad, the Endgame Gear XM1, which first dropped in 2021 and was released 2 more times in the following 18 months. The XM1 shape was heralded as the second coming of RJN for claw grip players, with the low front and prominent rear hump to anchor your palm into when locking into a claw grip. Whilst at a glance they're twinning, there are a couple of subtle differences though you should be aware of. First up, the scroll wheel. The LAMZU doesn't only include some fancy wave decals, it is noticeably larger and positioned further back, making it easier to use, at least for my fingertip grip with larger hands. The main clicks also have a very slight comfort groove, sloping inwards towards the centre and flicking up at the edges, helping me to anchor my fingers in position, especially during left to right swipes, compared to the more convex outward sloping shapes of the XM1 clicks, which my fingers never really felt fully secure on without using grip tape. The clicks are also substantially narrower than the XM1, which, whilst reducing grip options slightly, provided an edge of hard plastic down the side of the mouse, which kind of felt like gutter rails at a bowling alley to stop you falling off. This one tiny change is huge for my grip and anyone who shares my demented fingertip position for the ring and pinky fingers. On the XM1, the overhanging buttons meant I often squashed my ring finger in the click, making the button not actuate and causing the obligatory rage quit and toss the mouse. This wasn't the case on my uwu Atlantis, and this one minor change finally made me comfortable on an XM1-esque shape in a way that I hadn't ever been able to be before. The shape remains a best fit for claw, fingertip, or a hybrid of the 2 grips, and retains its wide, breathable hips at the rear. I think folks with medium to large hands are probably going to have the best time with the Atlantis, but fear not, Hobbit fam. LAMZU have teased a baby's first mouse version planned to drop at the start of next year. They got you covered. Now, skates on both are decent, but Atlantis has to take the easy dub for me, with legit aftermarket quality feet, plus a range of options and spares if you want to mix it up included in the box. The XM1 skates aren't bad by any means, but Atlantis just is kind of built diff when it comes to skate quality on display here, and you'd literally have to enjoy burning your money to replace them with aftermarkets. Lastly, in terms of side buttons, they are different, sure, with the Atlantis having a bit more separation and a smaller footprint, but neither of them were hard to hit or particularly stand out, so you'd have to be hard reaching to say that there's anything separating the two and that either button was anything more than adequate. Shape comparisons aside, the mouse was dropped from an unknown brand at a relatively budget price, so honestly I was expecting another example of Guangdong Province's finest work, but the Atlantis is shockingly well put together with no signs of creak, flex or rattle even after simulated mouse reviewer shaking. All clicks feel tight and snappy with no pre or post travel and offer very solid feedback. Whilst LAMZU have kept the price relatively budget, that's not reflected in the specs, which are on screen right now, either here or here, depending where I edit them. And whilst our little kawaii lady only weighs a mere 55 grams, she is packing a tech hog underneath her neat pleated sailor skirt, featuring a $33.95 sensor, Huano 80M switches, and 70 hours of battery life. The only knock I can give this mouse is that whilst the clear gloss plastic used on the base is obviously strong and durable, despite looking like an open mouth predator, the finish feels like a novelty toy whistle that you'd expect to fall out of your Christmas cracker around the family table this holiday, more than it does the base of a $100 mouse. Not a deal breaker because you don't actually touch it at all in play, but something that kept it feeling budget for me whenever I did flip it over to switch it off or turn it back on. Now, LAMZU supply a link for the obligatory CCP spyware download to change your mouse settings, and you absolutely should, because PSA, the mouse ships with a 12 millisecond debounce time on its clicks, or at least mine did. Memes aside, the software was perfectly functional, and I suspect it's actually the same code used by Pulsar, G-Wolves and several other brands with the same general UI and features on display, including DPI, pole rate and lift-off distance settings. I also try not to comment on the price of a mouse unless there's a specific reason to, because number one, value is subjective to each person, and two, I ain't your daddy no matter what your mama says about that night. You spend on whatever degenerate hobbies make you happy. In terms of overall thoughts on the Atlantis, the biggest compliment I can give it is that I bounced straight from some flagship mice from major brands like the Razer Death Adder V3 Pro and Xtrafy M8, review coming soon by the way, and the LAMZU mouse didn't miss a beat. It felt on par with these other mice, both in terms of quality, feel in hand, and my general performance in game. Whilst it doesn't have the latest 4000 Hz polling tech we've seen from Razer and G-Wolves, it didn't seem to matter for my mid-tier hard-stuck diamond gameplay. And the fact that LAMZU have managed this on their first ever outing is either the biggest stroke of luck since Croatia, Brazil, or we've got a new contender with LAMZU who've walked into the gaming peripheral scene, slapped it down proudly on the table, and asked everyone to come check it out. Their sophomore mouse has also been leaked and looks like an ergo challenger to the EC2 shape, so I guess that'll be the biggest indicator of what's to come from their brand. But for now at least, shocking as it may be, with no irony, I could absolutely see why someone would be happy to use an Atlantis as their main. Plus 100 social credits to you, LAMZU. Not all heroes wear capes. But I'll tell you who does wear a cape. Everyone who watched this far into the video, liked, clicked subscribe and left a comment. I'll be thinking of each and every one of you when I'm all alone in my bunk tonight. Starting with you.